Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, how's it going? I guess it's good because it's nice outside. It was like really warm. I'm getting really excited about the warm weather.
Yeah, it's finally decent out. I might start actually going outside, which I'm realizing was something that I took for granted, that I could just do that.
Yeah, I think actually I was talking to Abby the other day, and I was like, we should go camping, like all of us, like me, you, Rebecca, Payne, and her, and she's like, Calvin doesn't even go outside. Doesn't even own shorts.
Do I have to own shorts? Fine, I guess.
I mean, shorts are not required to go outside, but sometimes it's recommended.
Well, I'll have to figure out my pants situation, once we're all able to do all of that. But I don't know, maybe I'll just do some walks around the block or something.
Yeah. Well, you, to our listeners, you might be surprised that this is a D&D podcast.
Tabletop RPG podcast.
Sorry. I did the Kleenex thing where I just call something.
Yeah, you did the Q-tip thing.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's
Tabletop RPG podcast.
Exactly. TTRPG podcast. That's sort of about us, casually talking about GMing games, running them, our experiences in those things, and playing them, to try and make the other side of the screen a bit more approachable.
Yeah.
I've been trying to think of a good catchphrase. There's like a elevator pitch for the show. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Make the other side of the screen a bit more approachable. Hopefully that's something that people find. I don't know.
Yeah, two Canadians talk about their D&D games and tell each other how good of a job they're doing. That's basically the show.
I mean, it works for me. I need it. So.
No, I think we offer good advice, and we don't always compliment each other. It's just arguably I think we both think we're doing a good job. So it's not you could put down in the comments below if we're doing a shit job.
I mean, you could, but you could also tell us we're doing a good job instead.
All right, Calvin.
So
let's do this thing.
All right, let's get into the show. But before we get started with the meat of the show, which is going to be a bit of a recap, and then we'll discuss things about adapting to your players and stuff like that. Before we get to that, we have to start with the weekly GM tip of the week.
Yeah, weekly GM tip of the week. I think this week I'm going to be talking about goal setting. I guess, laying out, clearly what the plot of your story kind of requires the PCs to do. Not exactly, how they're going to do it, but just kind of, Mario's plot is to get to the castle and save the princess. That's what he has to do, right?
Right.
And how he does that is whatever the player wants, but really it's just go from left to right and don't die.
Yeah, I guess that's a good example, because they don't tell you, hey, press this button at this point. They're just like, you're here, you got to go there, and whatever's in between, you have to reach those challenges. Yeah, I think that's exactly a good idea for running something. Yeah. Yep.
Right. And that's good game design too, right? In general, it's you got to think of it as okay, what's the goal of the player, right? It's stop the evil lich from turning everybody into undead zombies, and that kind of sucks if everyone's zombies. Or maybe it's what you want, and then now everyone's cool zombie friends. You can run a cool zombie campaign.
If that's the kind of thing
actually
you want to do.
Yeah, that'd be kind of weird, actually. I don't really know what it means to be, undead. I guess you can, just not die. That'd be really hilarious to have, a game where everyone is just undead. And you got, different types of undead. That'd be kind of fun. Maybe in the future. But anyway, yeah.
Sure,
just,
undead campaign.
yeah, and, that's what I think. I think it's just, there's a part where players want to have unstructured time, I guess, right? Where it's well, what do you want to do, right? Mm-hmm. And they can have formulate their own ideas. It's I want to go build a castle, or I want to go write a novel, or I don't know, get drunk at a bar kind of deal. But then there's the adventuring time where it's your players really do appreciate that kind of next point on the HUD kind of thing, where it's like, okay, well, I know where the plot is. We want to go resolve it, right?
Right.
I think that, you know, and then like, you know, compressing the time of play from being like nebulous to be like do whatever you want to do the specific thing can really, and like going back and forth between that can really make your campaign that you're running really feel really dynamic and like really unique. And even if you run that same you know, collection of adventures again with another group of players, like they're never going to do the same thing and they're never going to come to the same conclusions. But what they really, to really anchor that is really kind of defining your goals and letting your players figure out how to get to that goal.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my DM tip of the week. I think they're getting better. I hope they're getting better.
Yeah, I mean, with practice, but you know, yeah, just I don't know that I have much else to add to that. It does remind me of something I've probably mentioned on here a few times that I heard from I think it was Mark Humes who said it. Like he was making they were making a comparison between railroading or I think the term they used was like a roller coaster. I might be misremembering, but it was like on the track, but it still has the ups and downs and stuff. I just really like that comparison. And yeah, I just like the idea of like, here's this goal. Here's the thing that, you know, the villain is doing this. You have to get this thing to achieve whatever you're trying to do. Figure out how to get to it from there. And then the plot happens in the middle.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a beautiful thing. We do it every week or two and show up with some plastic polyhedrons and some pencils and papers, and you just rock it out. Jam it out, man.
Those
jazz it out.
polyhedrons.
Those polyhedrons is what it is.
They can be either real friendly or they can not let you roll above 10 for a whole combat.
That's just drama. You know, those dice are just drama, you know, personified, right? Like it's what it is. It's all kind of like poetic and philosophical. You don't know what side you're gonna land on. Ooh. Getting real up in here in the Win with Dice podcast.
Yeah, man, take a chance and roll the dice. Okay, well. With that in mind, let's get into the main idea of the show is another recap, which is again something we do a whole lot of, but they're one of my favorite things to do because I get to just like talk about stuff I'm excited about, and that's the point of a podcast, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, honestly, I love it when you talk about each other's campaigns because sometimes we're not in it, and it's kind of like I'm like vicariously, you know, playing in your campaign, and it's kind of like a little bit of like a mini series or whatever we're like listening to, like, oh, what did the players do this time? Like, I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, that's because these are the same kind of conversations we'd be having normally. It's just that now we're able to share those experiences with other people. So I don't know, that's something I also really like about this podcast. So the last game I ran was in the Crown of Dragons campaign. I actually just ran it last night. I was up really late. I was up at like 2. I ended up being awake at like 2 a.m. just because, you know, because you finish off with the combat. So, you know, combat takes time. You got to finish it off. But yeah, I guess I'll just get right into it because I don't have any more introductory stuff to say. The players, of course, they're still on the track of the Draco Ronum, the mythical crown of dragons, which is said to be able to contain all 5 orbs of dragonkind, or the 5 known orbs of dragonkind. And with it, you should be able to control all of the chromatic dragons within a certain region.
You're telling me that there might be other kinds of like orbs of dragonkind out there, Calvin, in your world, from that sentence? Is that canon?
Maybe.
Calvin?
Look, I gotta get through this first arc, and then we can deal with that.
Calvin,
I don't even know
serious.
if this is like the first arc still. But...
One day we might have a wiki, and people are gonna argue about it.
Well, in that case, it should be more confusing now. So it's even more so later. So whatever number of whichever kind of dragon, orbs of dragon kind you're able to find, it's definitely able to hold that many. It's definitely able to hold 5. I'll say that. But yeah, so they're trying to find this object. They did recently. They went to this academy where they got notes and information on the different kinds of dragons and areas that the orbs might be in. So they have like, because they can like, because I'm playing in Roll20, so they can like draw and stuff. So they drew like regions where they could search for the orbs themselves, and I was like, yes, good. This is exactly what I want. It's actually kind of just what we were just talking about, in that they know where to go. So next is to plan how to get there.
Yeah.
So while they were also waiting on some information from a certain NPC who was doing some research on like a sort of this infectious fungus disease that they had run into like ages ago in like the second session that we ever played.
What?
And now we're on session 18.
You know, it like doesn't. It always surprises me when your players just bring something up from like the very long ago past.
Well, that's because that is part of what we were dealing with. Because again, like I have a whole bunch of side quests and crap because I have all these threads that I kept like creating, and now I have to like tie things back together. So, like the second
all those
thing,
sewer notes.
yes, all the sewer notes. They have 99 more to collect. There is a side quest in the sewers of a certain city that they could go back to if they want. I don't know if they will.
No one's ever gonna collect all of the Dragon Balls and and put them together because there's too many sewer notes to collect.
You gotta grind all the collectibles for bonus XP.
Yeah, it's like Skyrim, right? It's like, nah, I need to be the master thief, wizard, headmaster, werewolf, vampire, centaur first before I become before I beat the game. Actually, I don't think I've ever beaten Skyrim now that I think about it, because like I just got lost in the weeds and I never got out. Like,
you know, I still haven't played Skyrim. We should play that on our
what?
channel. Exactly.
Calvin.
It's been like it keeps getting re-released. It's been on like every system that exists.
Yeah, Skyrim is possibly one of the greatest sandbox games ever created. Like,
I'm fully aware.
The truest of sandbox. Like, Calvin, like legitimately, like I've started up a game of Skyrim and just not even gone to Whiterun. Like, I just never went to Whiterun. I never needed to go to Whiterun. I just fucked off and went somewhere else. I just started walking.
Is that like a big
deal?
That's how crazy
I don't know. This game is. Whiterun is like the next. It's like the basically like after the tutorial, you go to Whiterun, and that's how the story progresses, right?
Okay.
But if you never go to Whiterun, then the story never progresses, and you could just, I don't know, become a baker. Like, like you could just go off and just never ever interact with any of the plot. Like, it's bonkers. And like I think that like Skyrim is like the rubric I base a lot of video games on. It's like, if I'm playing a game and it's not that fun and I could be playing Skyrim instead, then it's not a good game, right? A game is valued to me is like how much of it is it, like how much I could be playing it over playing Skyrim. That's how nuts it is.
Okay, well, it's on my Steam wishlist, so when it's on sale, I'll be sure to pick it up. And then, I don't know, we have talked about streaming stuff in the past, so maybe that'll be the thing we stream.
Oh man, yeah, definitely. You probably want to play Skyrim and stream. I feel like that's like a good stream game. Although I don't really like. That's the thing. I don't really like watch a lot of streams, so I don't know what a good streaming game is.
I don't know. It depends on the streaming situation. We got way off topic there.
This is damn sewer notes. This is how Calvin's games run. It's the damn sewer notes.
Yeah, that's basically how my campaign is. It's entirely off topic. But yeah, so they're waiting for this person to tell them more information about this infection. I actually thought they already got that information because I misremembered how a certain conversation went. So, you know, their quest log that I have that keeps a track of everything, I had gone in there and I had updated it because I was like, why didn't I update this before? I thought I already updated their notes. And then we were talking about it, and then they were like no, we didn't learn all that stuff yet. And I was like, oh, no one look at the quest log for 5 seconds. Let me just go in there and remove everything. Luckily, they hadn't seen it yet because we were just starting, so nothing got spoiled yet. But yeah, so while they were waiting on that, they went to deal with another side quest in the area, which is all the draconic creatures around have been acting a bit out of character for them. They've been like angrier, more territorial, things like that. They've seen some places they shouldn't be, like the ones that attack them in open water, as well as the kobolds and the wyvern that had killed another one of the player characters earlier. So this was sort of all tied to that same situation. And then, so last session it ended with them like fighting off a drake, making friends with some wolves, and they discovered an object that was like relaying this magical signal that was driving these creatures crazy. So they destroyed that, and then we just started off with them getting back to the small sort of village within the middle of the forest that had like a single caretaker left because all the other ones were scared off by the drakes. So he was really like nice and friendly towards them. He gave them warm cider and this bread that was apparently excellent. I kind of was able to tie it into like another side thing from many sessions ago where they found some really good quality flour that didn't really come up again, but I was like, yeah, no, it's related to this.
What?
So I don't know. I'm at a point now where I can like fall back on some stuff, because like back in however long ago when they were solving a murder mystery, one of the clues was some flour left behind.
What?
Which sort of
That's where you got the flour?
Yeah, and then it was sort of related to like they found out where the flour came from, and then there was sort of like a red herring there because one of the suspects was the cook, and he was acting all suspicious. But he just had like his own side thing going on that didn't have anything to do with the actual murders. So it turns out this guy here, he said his one vice is that really good flour, which he uses to make really good bread.
Oh, okay.
So
do you just like search your OneNote for random words and put a story together?
Occasionally. In this case, everyone was like, "Wait, how do you make bread out here?" And I was like, "Oh crap, I don't know."
Control find flour.
Like they were asking me like, "Where do you get like the ingredients or like the wheat or the flour?" And when someone said flour, I was like, "I said something about flour before, didn't I?" Yeah, he gets that flour. I thought of everything.
And I bet your players were just like, whoa.
I hope so. They were also asking about like his personal like history and stuff. And I was saying like he said he used to have a relationship with someone, but that was years ago, and then she moved away because she wasn't really into the forestry life. And then I looked at my notes and I just picked like an old NPC kind of at random, who was also like tied to another character that they met way back when. But like at this point in the party with the composition of it, only one person was aware of that connection, just because everyone else is either like gone or dead. So
just like life, everybody.
Just like life. But yeah, I got to tie back some things, and then he's like, come back and visit, when the weather's warmer, because winter just started in this campaign world. Ooh, so, I don't know. Right. Depending on how long we play, we'll see if they ever go back there.
Depends if the sewer note connects them back.
Yeah. The sewer notes are just like the bread recipe. But yeah, so they headed off and they went back to the big city in the area because they had to go back to the guilds, and they had to just say, hey, we finished dealing with those drakes, and they got paid for their quests because the guild, the Adventurers Guild, is very organized like that. Nice. Yeah, they actually got paid this time. And from there, I was able to also deal with some plot stuff. So one of the characters, he's very much based on the Johnny Silverhand character from Cyberpunk, in that he sort of like came back to life from an object, and then he's just, he's also a bard as well. And he's using like an image of Keanu Reeves from some like fantasy graphic novel as his character token.
Nice.
So I was able to like reveal some more stuff around that because it was kind of in my hands, the specifics of it. So he learned a bit more about how, like, his character had at some point been arrested for sort of like his sweet rebellious tunes, just happened to piss off the wrong person and ended up with his soul trapped in like this key kind of thing. And then they revived him from that, and they were going to use him to try like this secretive bard, these secretive order of mage bards were going to use him to try to recover the Dracoronum because they needed someone that they had like leverage over, because they couldn't just rely on the trust of adventurers. They needed someone who like they basically have like a sword at this guy's neck because they can just put his soul back within the key at any time if they need to. So this was revealed to him by the guild the guild master at that location, who also happened to be a fan of this bard who used to perform 50 or so years ago. And then also apparently he had some old signed posters on him, so he gave her one of those, which I thought was funny.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, because she gave him like I came up with like a custom item, sort of based off a previous version, like an item from the previous version of Pathfinder, which is just sort of like it gives you like low light vision or dark vision, depending on how you use it. So she gave him that, and then he gave her the poster, and I was just like playing her as like being like trying not to be too overly excited about it, but clearly fangirling.
Yeah.
So that was a kind of a fun thing. I don't know, I kind of like that character. I like a lot of the characters that I have to come up with on the fly, especially like their personalities and stuff, just based on what's happening around them. So yeah, hopefully they are around that person more. But then things kind of took a bit of a swerve when they went to do some shopping. And you know, normally shopping is just shopping. I try to figure out like, well, what are you looking for? What kind of items do you want? Okay, here's a person that's selling them, and here's what the price is. And that worked out fine for the first one. So the first person, they were just gonna get a resupply of arrows. So they went to talk to the blacksmith, and the blacksmith was this person who was like, wasn't really much of a talker. Most of the responses they gave were like these singular grunts of and like stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
So that went pretty smoothly. They managed to sell just a bundle of arrows. The next one was some people who were looking for some potions. So they go to a potion store. There's this more excitable guy there at Versatile Vials, who's selling potions and stuff.
Nice.
So first he was trying to upsell them on like a really like high level expensive health potion, but like once he learned what their budget was, he was like, okay, well here's a lesser one. He was trying to sell, it was a lesser healing potion, which is normally 12 gold, and he was trying to sell it for 14.
Okay.
So there was some haggling back and forth, and I was just gonna have it like, depending on how well they do here, he might lower the price a bit or something like that. They did decently because they brought the bard was there as well, and the bard has high charisma, so they were able to do well enough. But when the player who was buying it, they did the assist on the bard's charisma check, and they rolled so low that it actually brought the charisma check down. So instead of being a critical success, it was just like a regular success. So he didn't bring it all the way down to 12. He brought it down to 13. They kept arguing, and he got down to like 12 and 5 silver. And then they came up with this brilliant plan, because they eventually revealed that the bard was a former celebrity. And the guy was just like, yeah, I know celebrities. Of course I know things. So they were saying that they will do some sort of magic so that when people walk into his store, they will hear a message from the bard that's like, I'm Randy Copperfoot, and this is my favorite magic store. And I'm this, the thing that the thing that Shepard says. Yeah.
Shepard says. You could promote this far. That's funny, man.
And I was like, this is brilliant. So let's figure out how we can do this. My favorite thing with DMing is like just getting thrown this random like out of left field idea, and then like, well, how do I make this work for you? So what their plan was a bit of deception and some timing on using the ghost sound spell. That they would just open the door, the other person would cast ghost sound. So I had some, deceptions and stealths. They were able to, by the skin of their teeth, pull it off. So the guy was like, okay, I'll bring the price down to 12. And they were able to do their transaction. But as they were leaving, he was like testing out the door. So like they're like quickly shuffling out as this guy's like repeatedly opening and closing the door, starts slamming louder and louder as he's trying to get it to work. And they're just like bailing into the crowd.
Nice.
Oh man. Which was just, that was a ton of fun. But what really caught me by surprise was what happened next, because there was another person who was just looking for a magic shop, and they were able to find one being run by this very arrogant-looking elven woman who was very judgmental about this person because it's a druid. So they were kind of like looking them up and down, seeing how rough they looked, especially from just like being out in nature for so long, having just returned from their other mission. And then they were looking for wands, so they were like, well, what kind of magic do you do? Because they were looking for like magic items and stuff like that. So the person asked like, what kind of magic do you do? And the druid does primal magic, obviously. So this NPC was like, oh, primal magic. As if it's something unclean. Okay. So things went from bad to worse there, and eventually, which I didn't see coming, the druid just like was just gonna straight up steal a wand and run out with it.
Oh my god!
Just because this lady was being so rude.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So like they're just a merchant; they're not very high level. So she rolled like a thievery check, snatched the thing, and bailed. The woman obviously called for help for guards. The guards came. The druid tried to convince them that like the other person in the shop was trying to attack them, but rolled really low on a deception check.
Oh my god!
So
all right,
I had to do a bit of a chase sequence.
Wow, it seems like a catastrophe wave is building.
It really was. This was not remotely the plan. Because I just thought they were gonna be like, okay, we'll wrap stuff up in this region, and then we'll get on a boat, we'll head back to the mainland, and then we'll decide what direction to go in. And I was, like, figuring out, like, boat stuff and things like that, but I didn't even get to that. This was actually, because I did a chase, and I haven't done a chase for a long time. This is the first time, like, either as a player or a GM, I think, that I've done a chase where it's the player who's the one being chased. It's usually the players are trying to hunt someone down and they're running away and they got to do like skill checks and stuff like that. But this time it was like
right.
They're the one running away and guards are coming after them. So they were able to do some stealth. They had a moment of like not being detected. They were going to try to climb a wall, but they crit failed on the climb. So they ended up being cornered. And it was kind of at this point that the other people in the party were now becoming aware of what was going on. I just had them rolling some perception checks, and like one person was able to notice, oh, the druid's being cornered. The other two were able to notice that there's something going on at the magic shop. So they all eventually regrouped at the store. The magic shop owner got the wand back, and then they had to pay the quarter fine. I know that thing from Elder Scrolls. Well, they had to pay the quarter fine of 130 gold.
Oh my gosh. Just because they didn't want to spend any money at this, they could have just left.
Yeah, but they had to stand up for themselves. This druid's been through a lot. They are the last of the original party, so it's entirely fair. I get it. So yeah,
all my friends are gone or dead.
Exactly. So yeah, at that point, this is the point where I was like really flying by the seat of my pants here, because this was not remotely the plan I had in mind for them. So yeah, I know, like a lot of this, like the entire rest of the session is basically like me improvising something, which is obviously going to be a thing that has to happen when you're running a tabletop RPG. But this was just so much out there that I didn't know, like, I didn't have anything ready for it, so I'm like making a map as I'm talking to them. So eventually they let this person, the druid, be taken into like holding cells overnight. They still had a good connection with the guildmaster, obviously, because of that poster. It really helped. So while they were irritated, they said they were going to work on something, but they might have to wait until the morning for that. And then the druid, while in jail, they met the other people who were there, especially this one dwarf in particular who had clearly been in a brawl of some sort and was being held there as well. So the next day they were able to sort of discuss with like the captain of the guard as well as the guildmaster's representative. They managed to get themselves a task, which was to track down a particular criminal by the name of Walter One Eye.
Walter One Eye?
Yeah. Who is someone I had planned to use like previously, but I didn't get an opportunity to, so I was like, okay, I'll work them in here. So rather than having to pay that fine, they are tasked with going out, tracking down this person, and bringing them back alive. And if they manage to do that, then their whole fine is waived, and they don't have to stay in jail anymore. So this dwarf who was in prison with the druid gave them some like really terrible directions. Not only that, but they would be directions that took too long to get to within the time frame that they were given. So their assistance wasn't very helpful, and I don't know, like I didn't intend for them to be like as unhelpful as they came off as, but then it kind of happened, and I was like, yeah, I just kind of like played it up that they were like, were they sure? Were they not sure? Who knows? But I left that in the player's hands. But otherwise, they did have a lead, which was sort of like in the town. There was like a sort of a smaller like low town area that they could go to, and there was a potential contact for this criminal that they were looking for. So essentially, the session ended with them going there. There was an ambush with some.
Oh, okay. And this was all not planned.
None of this was planned. None of this was planned. Because I was like, as I'm talking to them, I'm trying to find like, what's a good combat map for this? Because I've saved like a bunch of combat maps because I just like hang out on the Reddit battle map subreddit. And I was just like, okay, this one looks good. So I grabbed that. I put some dudes on it, and then like just had them going down to that area. There was a bit of an ambush there with some bandits and some ruffians. Pretty good fight. They put up a decent fight, but they eventually were taken down by the party, and that was sort of like the end of the situation. They managed to capture a few of them alive, so next up will be like interrogating them and then heading off to grab Walter One Eye before time is up. We could have kept going, but I wanted to take a bit more time to make the combat with Walter a bit more interesting. So that's the thing I'm gonna have to work on next. But yeah, like basically what I like the moment they left the guildmaster's office is the point where I was just like building the track in front of them as they went.
It's always like shopping stuff. As soon as you give like players like a large sum of money, then it's like, we're gonna go shopping now, and then it's like all sorts of ridiculousness happens, because then you have to like invent NPCs usually. That's when like a bunch of random stuff, and there's always like bartering or stealing involved, and then the catastrophe wave starts to build. And all of a sudden you're just, you know, your whole plan of just like, let's go to the plot gets derailed.
Sure does.
End up in jail, pay a fine.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, like just hopping into those singular characters, giving them a little bit of that personality. So I don't know, if that elf woman had been nicer, maybe none of this would have happened. But part of me is really glad it did, because that was a very, very entertaining session that I could not have predicted.
Yeah.
So I guess that's sort of like the fun. Like what I wanted to talk about for the. It is. It really. Yeah. That's why I wanted to talk about it. Like with regards to the podcast topic of just like adjusting things on the fly to try and keep up with your players, because it was mostly me like trying to keep up with them, and like we've had chaotic days in other campaigns. One immediately comes to mind with some investigation we were doing in the Path of Inion campaign.
I think it was probably with your brother, right?
Yes.
Yeah, with Macy's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys haven't been following, Macy comes from a criminal past that she would like to leave behind, but
she'd like to.
But it seems to keep following her, as all good pasts should in this kind of scenarios. But yeah, no, it was good. I like that a lot. In all honesty, like I did not plan that encounter at all either with your brother. Really, I made that all up on the spot as well. So you know, I think I originally planned you guys to go into like a fungal dungeon, and you guys to go fight some stuff down there. But then you just didn't.
No, we didn't. We stayed in the city. Because you had given us this list of different things that were going on, and there was something in the city. There was the fungus thing that was a bit closer, and then there was way out. I think it was the hobgoblins that had been sighted. The hobgoblins were the centaurs at that point in time.
Yeah. There was a hobgoblin centaur thing going a couple of weeks of traveling away, like out in the boonies, essentially. And then there was closer. There were just people going missing in the town, and you guys fought like these weird fungal zombies, essentially. That it was like at the beginning of spring, and then they basically defrosted, and we're starting to walk around again. And you guys are like, "What the hell was that about?" But then you just went in town, and I actually did the same thing where I just connected a couple of plot points together that had nothing to do with each other, and made your brother show up, and or Macy's brother shows up, and that triggered Macy into that guy is doing bad things because she knows her brother best.
Exactly.
And I think afterwards, because we were a few people short for that session, it was only 3 of you guys. Later, when I think it was Joel's character Rix, when he joined back into the party and you guys went off to go do something, you guys were talking about what happened, and he brought up that there was this criminal organization with a halfling, and then you're like, wait a minute, I remember that we kind of bullied a halfling and got us arrested. And it was like, wait, it's not the same halfling, right? And then I'm like, yes, that's the same halfling. And then turns out, I think his name was Mitch the halfling. I didn't give him a last name. It was Mitch the halfling was actually a bad guy. The whole and you guys had him in custody, and you guys had to let him go because you guys didn't have any proof. Because that's how stuff goes down in the city. You can't just make your own law.
Yeah, because our druid in that campaign had a bunch of followers as well. And they were all over this guy, bothering him all day, which eventually they all ended up being arrested for, and it was just really reflected badly on Macy and everything like that. Yeah. And then just to find
I was so proud of that, actually, because I didn't I was I don't know, do you want your boys to go do something? And he's like, yeah, let's just have the boys go and shake down the neighborhood, right? And we're like, okay. And then it was kind of a class act of oh, and then even during that they had some shadow guys show up that had nothing, I don't think had anything to do with you guys, but it had to do with Joel's character. But I was like, Joel's not here, but these guys will probably just attack you anyway, right? Because they're just hanging out in the city waiting to strike,
right?
Right. So they took the opportunity. I had no plans because legitimately, Calvin, you guys were supposed to go fight that fungal dungeon, and I had to make that crap up on the fly. So I was like, okay, I have this thing in my back pocket, let me go and spring it on you guys, which was kind of cool because I always really like to show off that you guys are the spec ops of the Adventurers Guild. So I think I had the bad guys, these shadow assassins, literally come out of your shadows because they're super ninja like that. But I made I think it was Corey made a perception roll, and he rolled really high versus their stealth. So I was like literally split seconds before like one of them struck, like he just was able to react and whip out his thing and got an attack off right before, and then the battle ensued, and then you guys, I think it was like you killed one, you got one down, and it exploded, and a literal shadow, like the creature type shadow, came out of it, and you were like, this is getting really weird, I don't know what's going on. And then after that, I think you saw your brother, and those two things were not connected at all, but your character Macy was like, this guy's here, we just got attacked, they're connected.
Yep.
and then a crazy investigation ensued, and then there was like a standoff at like a basically like a cafe. You met up with your brother, and then the police showed up, the quote unquote I forget what they called them, but the paladins that were just kind of like basically my stand-in for the cops showed up, and it was like, all right, break it up, we're gonna take you in now. And then we had this whole scene where, because I think at that point I was jumping between people because a bunch of people were running around the city doing whatever.
Yeah.
And then I, instead of like, you know, as you guys were going back into the police station, I just said like, and all of the dwarves that were shaking down people are just in there because they all got arrested. And then there was like a halfling there, and it was like the funniest moment. But that was like all on the fly, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, it just, oh man, because everyone's like just doing what their character would do, and it just turned into this brilliant chaos that none of us could have predicted. But it is all just like the reaction of the world to this stuff that we're doing. And
and you,
yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, and I know that so let's lead into this topic that you wanted to talk about, where it was like, you know, adjusting plot lines from what the player's actions, right? Like I had probably about like a good portion of that dungeon figured out, but you know, I had to adjust the plot line. I was like, I don't know, you guys are just not dealing with the thing I put in front of you, so I have to make some shit up on the fly, or like
exactly, because
right?
it's like that is a thing that is just going to naturally happen when you're running tabletop RPGs. You are gonna have to naturally, like, you're gonna have to improvise something. A character is gonna say something or do something that you're not 100% prepared for. In those little minutia moments, just figuring out how to improvise a response to something in a conversation, like that's gonna happen. But larger moments that sort of like completely deviate from like the overall goal that you had in mind, the A to B that you had in mind, like, you know, the players are trying to do a thing, so let me prepare that thing. There's a goal in front of the players that they're likely to go to, so let me prepare what is in that goal, so I'm ready when they do the thing that's very likely to happen. But then as you play, just something like the chaos wave just happens. Like someone goes in a different direction, they say the wrong thing to the wrong person, they come to the wrong conclusion, and follow that thread, and then eventually you're like, well, now we're definitely not doing what I thought we were gonna do, so I have to try to like create something to match what's going on here.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, like, I felt like, well, you probably had a lot of fun, but I felt like Macy was kind of defeated at the end of it because nothing really got resolved. Mostly it was just like Macy did a bad thing and disappointed her pseudo dad. Like, that was the conclusion, right? Like, nothing really got resolved, but I set up like a whole bunch of stuff in that in that session, which paid off later, actually, because that kind of set the stage for, I did a solo session with you, because everyone has a bunch of downtime now because you guys, you know, went off and did a bunch of plot things, and I was like, you guys should have downtime so you guys can do some downtime stuff now.
Right.
And, you know, that kind of set up to this, like, you know, nice John McClane action moment where you turns out, yeah, your brother was being kind of bad and tried to, you know, kidnap a noble that was visiting. So, you know, you stopped that plot.
We had our rooftop confrontation, and then we jumped onto a boat, and then we were on the boat. And I remember that. That was fun. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I got to close off that chapter, right? And it was kind of like a set up a couple sessions before and pay it off later, kind of sewer notes kind of deal, uh, which was nice. But honestly, I could tell you that every single campaign, no matter what, there's always something that the players will just completely avoid, and you have to make something up on the fly, like. I mean, most of my games, sessions I run, like I have like an ideas of stuff, but like most of it's just like on the fly. Like I kind of make it up as I go along, even just like while we're playing, right? But I know that the infamous "We're here for the medallion" story, where my players are supposed to infiltrate a fort, like a castle, with a noble and get this medallion, like literally steal it. But instead of like, you know, sneaking in from like the back or like the underground dungeon and working their way through that dungeon and sneaking up through the castle and doing that kind of like espionage deal, they just walked up to the front door and was like, "We're here for the medallion," and then proceeded to just, you know, literally run and gun their way through this, like the castle, where I had to like, I didn't plan anything. I was like literally in the moment. I was like, okay, this castle has 3 levels. I literally grabbed my dungeon tile set and started laying down dungeon tiles as they went through the castle, and then just keep spawning dudes for them to fight, and just like, you know, kept going and going and going until they resolved it. And the whole fight was just like running through hallways and stairs, fighting bad guy guards, fighting the noble, killing him, grabbing the stuff and jumping out a window. Like it was like the most GTA thing I've ever experienced. like legitimately, like it's like, oh man, you need to go kill this mob boss, and then you just show up with a rocket launcher and be like, it's done.
Exactly. And that's just like I don't know, that is like one of the multiple good things about these kinds of games, these kind of tabletop RPG games. That is another one of those that you can just like, because you are sort of like collaboratively creating this narrative together, and it is always going to I mean, how do I put this, like as the GM or DM or whatever the term is for your game, it's not always easy to be surprised by stuff that happens. Because you do like come up with like, okay, this villain's gonna be here, this dungeon's gonna be here, these 2 people have connections, this player character said that they have a brother or something, so their brother is this guy, or they have like, maybe their mother has disappeared or whatever, so their mother's over here or something. Like the players can give you these threads, you can place them wherever, or you can make up your own different like plot things for people to figure out and stuff like that. So it's hard to be surprised sometimes, but that's what I like about these kind of sessions, where like what you expect to happen absolutely does not happen, what you prepared for absolutely does not happen. So you're able to be like, as things are happening, there's this excitement of like, I don't know where this is going. Like, I know what the setting is, I know the people here, so I know how people are going to react to what's happening, but I have no idea where this is all going to go. I just have to like, again, just that image of putting down the train tracks in front of the train that's already running.
Yeah, like, you know, and that's like basically what DMing is. It's just kind of like, sometimes you have more tracks down a little bit beforehand, sometimes it's like inches away from derailing. Like, you know, no, it's good, and I kind of like to always try to punctuate those kind of like not plot beat, you know, sessions with like, let me dig up something from a player's past, or like their backstory, or some bit of lore of the world, and just kind of like slap it in there. So then it's like, you know, you walk away from the session being like, well, we explored something. You know, we like got to know an NPC a little bit better, or like we got to know a little part of this city a little bit better, right? It's not just like, you know, you beat the bad guy. Sometimes it's just like, you made a new friend, or you made a new enemy.
Yeah. And then there's lasting consequences from those sessions as well, that you can like start to weave back in, because, you know, they weren't totally unexpected. I actually did also want to talk about the concept of over preparation, because that is something that I kind of, well, I don't know about over preparation if that's the right term, but it is something that I worry about sometimes. like if I'm being too rigid in my plans. But I also think about under preparation in that, like, because I, like, going into that session, like most times, I felt like, am I ready enough for this? Do I have enough stuff for this? Do I know what I'm doing right now? Because I, like, legitimately was at a point where I was like, I'm just gonna have to, like, wing it at some points, because I don't know, because, like, I know generally, like, the direction they're gonna go in, or I thought I did, but I don't know the specifics of what's gonna happen. So I thought I wasn't fully prepared for that session, but then it was just like, oh, it would not have mattered anyway.
Yeah, right. And I think that there's always, like, I think being over prepared is always, like, the struggle with DMing, because, like, your players aren't gonna care if you didn't figure out all the, you know, the nuts and bolts of the session. They care if, like, they're having fun and, you know, there's a cool thing to like, cool place to go and a cool thing to do, right? Those are the things that they want to do.
Yes.
You know, they don't care if you didn't figure out every single NPC's name, or you didn't figure out all the plot points. Just like, look, there's a clown. Everyone has fun with the clown, and you're like, I did it. like I'm gonna figure that stuff out. That's basically it. Right, buy yourself some more time to polish up those nuts and bolts, right? Like, I think that eventually, like, after you have a couple of you know, sessions under your belt as a DM, you kind of understand what you can get away with not preparing, right? Like, especially with the types of players. Like, I know for a fact that in the Pirates campaign, like, what I really need to do is figure out what the NPCs want, and then you guys will just figure it out yourselves. Like, you guys, like, you know, like, you guys will just tell me what you want to do. Like, I'm for sure know that. But for, like, Ineon or something like that, it would be like, well, I have to prepare adventures specifically, because it's like, you guys need to know where the dungeon is, and you go do the dungeon. That's just the type of game I'm running in Ineon, and that's the type of game I'm running in the pirate campaign. It's like, they're just two different games. So it just depends on, like, what kind of game you're running and the players, right? Because, like, if your players really like to talk to NPCs and they really just show up to talk to NPCs sometimes, you better prepare those NPCs. But you could not prepare a dungeon, because it's like, you know, who cares? Yeah, they don't want to do that much anyway, right? But, like, you know, show up to Ineon, and Ineon's about kicking down doors and slaying monsters. You better make sure there's some doors and monsters there, right? Yeah.
And you can also set that thing when you're talking about, like, if you do a session 0 or whatever you want to, or however you introduce your campaign to people, which is something that it's like, because I didn't used to do that, but that's something that I definitely want to do more of, is just, like, explaining, here's the tone I want to set with the campaign, here's the kind of story that I might want to tell, just to give people an idea of, like, what can fit in there, because then you want to have, like you want to let the players know sort of what's going to be going on. You will, over time, I think, get, like, what they're into and adjust for that. But at the same time, you as the DM, GM, whatever, are going to want to like, have a certain kind of story as well, like whatever kind of story you're into as well.
Yeah, because, you know, you're also a player at the table, right? Like, you're trying to accomplish something. It's just that you're just in charge of a lot more than just one character sheet, right? So it's like, there's a lot more things you got to consider, but you're still there to have fun and, you know, be surprised and all that stuff too. So, you know, I wish I wanted to play Ineon now. I miss knocking down doors. I miss watching you guys knock down the doors and being like, Ramon, I can't believe you put this here. How could you do this to us?
It's your fault for opening that door, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could. I still have that one character idea I never got to use for Ineon that I'm trying to find somewhere else to put him. So maybe he'll come back.
Maybe one day, once global pandemic is over.
Yes. Once whatever new world that ends up looking like. Hopefully we can play RPGs in it.
Definitely.
I don't know. What else can we say about sort of preparation and stuff like that? Because I do kind of feel like, because you had mentioned a while back, you were talking to someone who was preparing to run a game, and they were like preparing like these sort of like longer term things, and you had told them to just like not worry about all of that. So I was thinking about like that, especially in regards to a session where you're just like, again, flying by the seat of your pants like that.
Oh yeah, well in that case he was basically putting together this big like Machiavellian plot with like people's, you know, brothers and relatives, that NPCs brothers and relatives and stuff like that. And like I get what the idea of the game would be. It would be kind of like uncovering whatever this family thing was happening, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all well and good, but I feel like if you have like a basis of it, you could always just kind of like finagle that in, right? Like you said, it's always about like laying what you need to get the session in.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you plan out your roadmap so much, then there's no place to kind of like deviate or let the players have an input, or, you know, go like, you know, play off of them, and then you're never gonna get the session together. You're never gonna start. So like I always think that like, you know, it's better to literally just play the game than prepare for the game. Like always best to just be at the table than just forever preparing something to be at the table, right? Like it's...
Oh, that's really good advice.
It's not fun.
That should have been the TM advice of the week, because that's something that
Shit.
I need to tell...
I should have said that.
I need to tell Starfinder Calvin that.
I should have said...
Play than...
I should have kept it for next week. I'm an idiot. I finally had one beforehand.
I don't know. Just repeat
Here's
it.
your second tip of the week.
Right? No. There's two for one in this episode. A second weekly GM tip of the week.
I know. Wow, you guys are getting a bargain. But yeah, no. Honestly, like it sessions are, again, I always tell people sessions are only like 4 hours. You only have 4 hours of content. About 2 of those hours they're gonna be just like yammering between themselves or fighting a monster, and the other hours you just like talking about like dungeon dressing or something, or like getting the quest or whatever, you know, or like them, you know, talking to a literally 30-second made NPC and falling in love with them and trying to marry them or something. Like it's just like I rather let the you know the session kind of unravel itself than trying to keep it so tight knit, right? It's just like that's like you know, I would argue about 60 to 70% of the fun is, you know, putting this jumbled up mess in front of your players and watch them just like unravel it, right? Like it's just, don't worry about it. Like you could always connect the dots behind the scenes even though you didn't preemptively think about it.
Yes, exactly. That is speaking from the experience of someone who's trying to tie all their random plot threads from their inexperienced GM days from 3 years ago. Yes, you could just figure out, you can like afterwards you can use that prep time to figure out, okay, how can I fix these things to like paste them together in a way. But when you're at the table, like it's better to just be at the table and playing and improvising the thing, and then you can go back and figure it out later if you need to. If you feel like you've worked yourself in a position that is just so far off that you need to realign everything. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how that would happen mid-session, but like if you are in that space, then you can just, you know, take a step back and then figure those things out. But otherwise, when you're inside the session, I mean, I don't know, but like I very rarely get everything I want to get done in a session anyway, so odds are I've never just ended a session being like, well, that's all I have planned. Like never. I've never done that. Like it's always like we never ever reach the finish line where I'm out of content. Mm-hmm. It was quite incredible. Like it's either just like I prepared double or triple of what I actually needed to get the session done. Especially stuff where it's like they have to go shopping. Like that'll just take up like 2-3 hours of gameplay. Like people love to go shopping. Like it is crazy. I forgot how much this group was really into the shopping stuff that we did before. So I definitely want to look up. I want to look at some more shops for them.
See what I mean? Like, you know, if you're trying to prepare for your group, you know you're gonna have to have some fabulous shop names. And right, so you gotta make sure that you have them on ready. Just be like, or you make that you have to like put that effort in, so they go in and they're like, oh cool, I know this place, right? Like I feel the effort you put in, Calvin.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Oh man, there was a really fun one. I've probably mentioned it because I've talked about this campaign a bunch. There was a really fun one in one of the other cities they were in, the Wizard's Warren. There was a magic shop run entirely by intelligent rats. And yeah, they all had like terrible names like Rathu and Ratherin and Retricia.
Retricia.
Oh man, I missed that place. I was like, I don't know. I wish they would come back to there specifically for those characters because I kind of miss them now.
Yeah, but
we'll see if they go that direction.
Yeah, no, for real. And that's the thing too, right? It's like all this, even if you prepare all this stuff beforehand and you've over prepared, I guess let's just say, like it's like you can still use that later. Like if you're DMing now, you're probably going to be DMing for the rest of your life unless something unforeseen happens. Like it's hard to not do it. And the players that you have right now may not be the players you have like a couple years from now, and like you might be doing the exact same campaign with a whole crop of new players, and you're like, yes, finally they're back at the rat place and I get to use the rat names again.
I get to use the rats again.
Right. Like it's
yeah,
cool.
that was
it's cool.
Also the benefit of using the same campaign setting for everything. By the way.
Yeah, you can rely on your past self to be like, thank God I thought about this 5 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, that's, I don't know. So you just, man, that was a really fun session. None of it I was ready for, but now I have some time to like make the last bits of it more interesting. So that's hopefully what I'm going to be able to work on. I think that's about all we can say about prep and improv, which is a topic I know we've talked about before, but I just had more perspective on it now. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add to that, or should we roll into the cool outro?
I guess we should roll into the cool outro. I don't think I really have anything else to add. I mean, I just want to say, like, if they bypass a dungeon or something that you wanted to use, just like keep that dungeon around and add more to it, and then eventually they'll just run into it, and then you'll just be like, haha, fools, I prepared 5 floors already. Like,
exactly.
prepare for weeks of fun and danger, like,
Yeah, like you might not get to use a certain location or NPC or whatever, but you can use them again later. Just keep them in mind. Remember that one time you mentioned some special flower in 2019 or whatever.
Thanks 2019, Calvin. You really pulled it together.
Really came through. But yeah, I think that's about an episode. If you like that, and if you want to hear more from us, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you get a notification when we upload episodes or go live with Lancer. Again, I want to keep mentioning this thing, just in case there's new people listening, is if you have some specific thing you want to hear more about with regards to GMing games or tabletop RPGs in general, just feel free to hit us up on Twitter and Facebook at Win With Dice, or to drop it in a comment right below this video. You can't see me, but I'm pointing down towards the comment section where you can post a comment. Which I always just really appreciate. I like hearing back from people. I like seeing the likes on the video go up as well. So once you hit that like button again,
let us know that we're doing a good job. Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate that. But yeah, also check out our social media. Check out our website, winwithdice.ca. Where you can find more content from us, as well as some unique images and stuff that haven't gone on here, like our ships from Starfinder, some pictures of our pilots from Lancer, things like that. Again, I want to shout out, like I always do, the Untold Stories project, where I've been appearing weekly playing Fallout. This is actually going to be the last week. When this episode goes up, it's going to be the last episode of our Fallout campaign. For a few months. Oh yeah,
that's crazy, Calvin. I can't believe you ended a thing. That's impossible.
Well, I'm not running it. That's why it ended. But no, we are gonna pick up because we were on a quest to find the mythical Vault 23. So we still gotta find that, and the game we've been using, because it was just an adaptation of like a RPG minis game, but an actual tabletop RPG is gonna be coming out from the same people who made it later this year. I don't recall exactly when. I think sometime in the summer. So we will actually be using that when we start playing, which will hopefully be fun for people. So if you want to check that out, just go over to that channel. I am going to be there on Mondays playing Mutants and Masterminds now, so hopefully I don't derail that campaign too much. But yeah, so if you want to hear more of me, you can check me out there. And again, if you want to hear more from us, be sure to subscribe and make sure you got the notifications on. Be sure to check out our Lancer videos, actually, because those are a ton of fun to do. I think I'll also drop a link for it in the description as well. I'm pointing down again in the description where you can see where our Lancer videos are. And I think that's everything I want to cover.
All right. Well, Calvin, there's one last thing you got to do.
Let's see. What is it? Oh, right. I almost forgot. I gotta let the people know to keep on winning with dice.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Have a good one, guys.
See you next week.